Is your Windows computer slow? Well, I can help for free. This guide lists 10 things plus a bonus you can do to increase the speed and performance of your computer, all without costing a cent. Depending on your individual computer, any number of these tips can help, and some may help more than others. I'm listing these like a top 10 list, roughly in reverse order, based on ease and how much speedier your computer can get. So the ones at the end have the potential to help the most generally, but don't skip ahead just yet. Really, any of these tips can do wonders, and there's really no telling which one or which combination will turn your particular sad, slow machine into a snappy little nitro burning funny computer. Well, that might be taken a little far, but if you follow these tips, you're virtually guaranteed to end up with a faster system. And if any of these do help, please like and subscribe. It helps. Alrighty, let's jump right in. Alright, so this is basically the bonus one. So it's just a shut down and restart. And I'm not joking, and I know that every IT person is going to say, turn it on, turn it back off. Is it plugged in? Well, this is sort of the is it plugged in version of that. But here's the thing. You want to actually shut it down, not just do a restart. So if you click on the start button down here, then go to the power icon and then click shut down. All right. So it's an actual full shutdown. So you want to turn that sucker all the way off and let it be off for a good 30 seconds, and then push the power button to bring it back to life. If you haven't turned the computer off in a long time, your computer might thank you for it with faster performance when it comes back on. There's lots of mind-bendingly boring and techy reasons why this helps that I'm not going to go into now, but just know it's a real thing that really helps, and it's not just some inside joke shared between IT people. Number 10, Windows updates. Yeah, I know. Who's got time to wait on that, right? But in fairness to the people who created the operating system you're using, the updates include all sorts of bug fixes and optimizations that can help the speed of your system. Now, it's got some things that might do the opposite too, but we'll cover that as we move up the list. But the benefits do outweigh the drawbacks. It's also has less of an effect directly on your speed so much as it has to just kind of laying the foundation of your system and keeping it clean and making it harder for viruses and other nasty things from exploiting old code and grinding your system to a halt. Regarding time, well, yeah, it's going to take a lot if you have an older system that's really slow, but all the more reason to do it, right? Caveat time here, though. Do not turn off or unplug your computer at all during this process. It would be extraordinarily bad for you to do that, like epically, catastrophically bad. So just definitely make sure you don't turn off your computer. This will take time, and once you start, more or less, you'll have to see it through to the end. So don't do this right before you know you'll need to be on it. Do this at night, on a weekend, or any long stretch of time. If you're sure you have the time, and pinky swear that you won't turn off the computer when you do this, here's how to do it. So probably the easiest way to get to the Windows Updates section is by clicking on the Start button down here and then clicking on Settings. Alright, now when you do that, it's going to open up a window very much like this one, although Windows Update's probably not going to be the first thing you see. So over here you just type Update. And eventually you'll see Check for Updates, and that's what you want to click. Alright, now that's going to take you here, and you're going to see the last time that the system checked for updates, which is what the first thing you're going to want to do here, probably. And then if you have any updates here that are available, then you're going to want to install them. Now you're not going to actually want to install the optional updates because a lot of those have to do with the vendors and they're not necessarily system updates or have any kind of security fixes in them. But unless you know for sure you need to do it, just don't. Otherwise, the other ones will show up and they'll look a lot like this, and you'll have to download and install, or download or install, depending on the state of them. And you're going to want to actually do that for each and every one of them. You may have to restart the system a time or two. It may ask you to restart the system. So just, go with the flow, do it, let it do its thing. Make a pot of coffee, space out on the phone for a while, whatever. But just kind of let it do its thing, and eventually it'll be done, and your system will be better for it. Number 9, disable shadows, animations, and visual effects. Windows 10 has a variety of animations and other visual effects like fading and translucent windows that use a decent amount of processing power. Now, if you don't mind losing some of that fanciness, then you can take a trip back in time to the old XP days, run to the Blockbuster, and pick up a copy of the brand new mega hit Joe Dirt. Seriously though, turning off some of this stuff can help. So either click on the Windows key or click on this little search icon here, and in this box you're going to want to type sysdm.cpl, and that is the control panel item here for the system control panel. So you're going to want to click either one of these to get you there. Alrighty, and that'll bring up this screen. Alright, so under here you want to go to Advanced, and then under Performance you want to click on Settings. So from here there's a bunch of items that you can toggle on and off individually, and there are also options that based on your computer situation can be adjusted for better performance. Or you can let Windows choose what's best. Alright, so you have some options here. So you can experiment with this, but according to Computer World, or a ComputerWorld.com article I saw, the following items are the one which have the most impact on performance. Okay, it's the one that says animate controls and elements inside windows, animate windows when minimizing and maximizing, animations in the taskbar, fade or slide menus into view, fade or slide tooltips into view, fade out menu items after clicking, and show shadows under windows. So again, you can experiment with these. You can toggle them on and off, hit OK, or hit Apply if you once you do it, and OK. And you can see the changes that are made, and ultimately these can lead to much faster system performance. Number 8, transparency effects. Like the changes we just discussed, this is just another visual fancy setting that isn't great for performance. And to toggle this off, you go to Settings by clicking the Start button, and the Settings icon here. And then once this loads up, you click on Personalization and Colors. And here it is, Transparency Effects. You just toggle that guy off, and that's all you got to do. Easy peasy. Number 7, defragment your hard drives. I'll spare you the techie reasoning behind this one, but especially if your computer is older and or you routinely create and or move a lot of files around, you're going to want to defragment your hard drives. Click on the Start button and then Settings. And then once this opens up, you're going to want to type defrag into this box, and then click here where it says defragment and optimize your drives. Alright, so once this window comes up, you'll be able to see how many drives you have and also the media type here. Now you're not going to want to defragment these solid state drives. You're only going to want to do this to the hard disk drives. If the current status is anything other than OK and 0% fragmented, then you could get some performance gains by selecting the hard drive and then click on Optimize. Or better yet, you could click over here under Change Setting under the Scheduled Optimization area if it's set to off. So if you click on Change Settings and check the box here that says Run on a Schedule, Recommended Weekly, and this other one for Increased Task Priority if 3 consecutive scheduled runs are missed. Just set that and hit OK, and you're good to go. Number 6, change your power settings. Your computer might be running in power savings mode, and that could be costing you performance. So to check on this, you can click on the Start button, and then Settings, and then type Power. Alright, and now you want to click on Power and Sleep Settings. From the Power and Sleep screen, scroll down a little bit and click on Additional Power Settings. And you're going to see a screen like this. It's going to have a couple of different plans. Whichever one is selected, click on Change Plan Settings. And then under here, click on Change Advanced Power Settings. What you'll get is a screen like this, and you'll have a drop down here. So in my case, I'm on a balanced one. But you can also do a high performance one or a power saver. A lot of folks are on power saver by default, so changing this to high performance can help you out. Just change it to high performance, hit OK or Apply, and that's it. Number 5, shutting off Windows tips and tricks. Who needs Microsoft giving you advice? I say, don't you dare tell me how to live my life, Microsoft. To nip this little performance killer in the bud, simply click on the Start button and then the Settings icon. Oop, there it is. And then click on System. There it is. Then Notifications and Actions. From here you can uncheck Get Tips, Tricks, and Suggestions as you use Windows for probably the best performance boost. But there's a whole bunch of other things here that may be checked, and all of these can save you some performance if they're unchecked. So, or better yet, just toggle all the notifications off, and that'll make your life a lot easier. Number 4, turn off search indexing. So Microsoft tries to make your searching faster on your system by running a process that actually slows older and slower systems down. So by turning off search indexing, this lets you get your performance back at the expense of slightly slower searches. And to be clear, we're not talking about internet searches here. We're talking about searches on your own system looking for files that are on your computer. Okay? So to do this, what you want to do is go over here to the Start button, but instead of left clicking, you're going to want to right click and then go up to Computer Management. And once this opens, you're going to want to go down here to Services and Applications, and then double click on Services. So this is going to bring up a list of all the running services on your machine. And from here, you're going to look for one that either says Indexing Service or Windows Search. In my case, I think it was Windows Search. Yep, there it is. And all you're going to want to do here is just right click on it and click on Stop. And that's all you got to do. Actually, it's not quite all you have to do. You do need to reboot your machine after you do this to see performance boost. But you'll be doing that at some point anyway. But if you want to immediately see the performance boost, go ahead and restart your machine after you take this step. Number 3, disable game mode. If you aren't using the machine for gaming, another way to increase speed is to turn off game mode. It's on by default and optimizes your machine for playing games. But if you aren't doing that at the moment, turning it off allows your computer to allocate resources in more efficient ways, leading to increased performance. So to do this, go to Settings by clicking the Start button, clicking on the Settings icon, and then click on Gaming. And then from here, click on Game Mode, and Game Mode right here. Just toggle that sucker off, and that's it. Number 2, bloatware. Bloatware takes up CPU and system resources, and sometimes a ton. You almost never know these programs are running, and you never use them. They literally sit on the background sapping system performance. It doesn't matter if your computer is new or old. If you haven't taken it off already, you've got bloatware. So we get rid of it by removing the programs from your computer. Now, a quick side note here. I do not advocate any products that claim to remove bloatware. I'm sure some of them do it just fine. But the reliability is pretty suspect, and in some cases these programs can make the problem worse with their own programs. So my recommendation is to do it yourself. Being a little bit more methodical and doing the job right the first time will pay off in the long run. Alright, so to remove programs, you want to click on Start, then Settings, then type Add. So we'll go down here to Start, to Settings, and we will type Add, and we want to click on Add or Remove Programs. Alright. So what it's going to give us is something like this. And it might take a little while. If your computer is slow, it may take a little bit of time to populate this list. But once it does, you can look through each of these programs. Some of these things you're not going to want to get rid of. Obviously, any kind of Visual C++, anything that looks super techy, just leave it there. Most every kind of Microsoft app here you should probably keep. Some of them you actually can't get rid of. But most of these you actually can get rid of if you want to. So one of the rules of thumb, the first bit here is figuring out what programs to take off. Okay, so any kind of program that you used to use but you no longer use, and you no longer use it, it's best, in my opinion, to go ahead and remove it. So for any of these here, you can just click on it and see. In these cases, they're grayed out because it's a Microsoft thing. But if we go some of these other ones, so like this program, for example, if you click on it, and you can click on Uninstall here, and that'll make it go away, or it should at least initiate the process. And most of the times, it'll work to actually remove the program. Okay, so the trick part really is trying to figure out what to actually remove. So some tips on that. Again, leave the Microsoft programs alone for the most part. But things you can remove typically are going to be things like weather apps, financial apps, health and fitness apps, messaging apps that you don't use, music, video players, games, a bunch like Candy Crush and things like that. There's tons and tons of those sorts of programs that will be on your system that you didn't want to be there. You didn't ask for them to be there, but they're just there. And so also things like antivirus programs, if you don't use them anymore. So for example, if you use Microsoft Defender or Windows Defender, and then you have McAfee on the computer, sometimes things like McAfee, sometimes others are pre-installed on your computer. If you don't use it, remove it. those take up tons and tons of resources. So definitely get rid of those if you don't use them. The other thing, and possibly the most important one, is to look for apps made by the manufacturer. So for example, if you have a Lenovo or HP or Toshiba computer, look at the apps that are attributed to Lenovo or HP or Toshiba. All manufacturers add bloatware, and some more than others. You'll be surprised how many apps are on your system that you don't need, want, or use. So I advocate for making a list of all the apps that fit the criteria that I just talked about. So anything that doesn't seem like it should be there based on that, or just anything that just seems suspect to you in the first place. If you've never heard of it, if you've never used it before, and put all those things in a list, and then Google them. Okay, and Google them along with, is this necessary? So there's so many programs, and they change from time to time. So it's really best to spend a little time doing up-to-date searching to make sure the program isn't necessary. And usually they aren't if they're from the manufacturer specifically, or their games and that kind of thing. But do a little bit of research before removing them, because there's just simply too many to go over all of them. And again, they change from time to time. And when you do this, try to resist the barrage of ads you'll encounter claiming that they can remove it all for you. Because again, those companies aren't always the best. So, but this is really, really one of those that's worth spending the time, because this one, along with our next one, our number one, really can make a huge difference in your computer's speed and performance. Number 1, optimizing your startup items. So this sort of goes with the one that we just had. Essentially, your startup items are things that are programs that start up when your computer starts up. They don't all the way start up, but depending on what program it is, they sort of sit in a state of readiness. I think the idea is that the programs that either some of them actually do start up, and then some of them are sort of in a state where they can start up quicker once you need them when you try to go to them. So if you have a fast enough system, you don't really notice it, but you certainly can. And depending on how many items there are, it can absolutely bog a system down tremendously. And going through each of those and seeing what's going on with them can make a drastic difference in your computer speed. All right, so how do we get there? Well, we're going to do the good old Control, Alt, and Delete. So hit the Alt key, the Control key, and the Delete key all at the same time. Then click Task Manager. And then click on Startup. All right, so what you're going to see here is going to be a list of programs, the publisher, so who makes them, what their status is, and what the startup impact is. So you'll see right off the bat, you can sort these. So if you click on status here, so I've got a number of things disabled, like Microsoft OneDrive, because I don't use that, and Microsoft Edge, because I don't use that. But then I have some things that are enabled, and as it turns out, I have some things that should not be, like EA Sports, for example. So this is a good example. You come over here to it, and you right-click on it, and then select Disable. So now it comes down here to the disabled list. Now we're not removing these apps, and we're not making it to where they don't work or anything like that. We're simply making it to where they don't self-start when your computer starts. So again, you can go through each of these and you can see what the impact is, and sometimes again this is not measured, or sometimes it may or may not be accurate. But there's all sorts of things here that you might have on your list, and if you've never gone through here, almost all of these things will probably still be enabled. So unless you use it, again, unless it's something that you actually actively use, you can disable it for the most part. Again, I wouldn't mess with too many things that are Windows or Microsoft Corporation here. For the most part, OneDrive is an exception. And things like Cortana, if you use that, or any of these that are obviously not important. But again, if you see something over here that looks fancy, like Windows security notifications, go ahead and let that thing be enabled. But everything else you can disable for the most part. And as soon as once you do this, it won't take effect until you restart the system. So just go through here, see what you've got to do, disable as many of these as you can, or at least selective ones, especially these ones with a high startup impact, and restart your system. And I'll bet you'll see that thing zipping along much faster than you have in quite a long time. All right, well, thanks for joining me, and I certainly hope that some of these have helped you. And if they do, please give a like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time around. Thanks.